Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. You probably can't hear the difference, but I can certainly see the difference. I am coming to you, at least in the opener of this one, from the new house. I've been talking about this quite a bit the last couple of years. It has been absolutely backbreaking, but we are in, and it is beautiful. I got a living roof that I can land on. It's all powered by the sun, and it's a nice spot. So for the next few months and years, I'll be able to be much more reliable in getting these out to you on time, and the recording spot I have built is fantastic and very well insulated and be much easier to do. So that's exciting. The other bit of exciting news before we get into this one is we just had a very successful Red Rocks Wide Open, one of our U.S. Nationals events. This is going to be the place where we're hosting a PWC next year, which is really exciting. We haven't had a PWC here since Sun Valley, which was one of my first comps back in 2012. Had 4 really amazing tasks. An evening task that started at 5:20 and 73K and landed at sunset, and a couple 100-mile tasks, which is pretty unusual in the world of racing paragliders, so that was fun. A couple days up around 17 grand. So for those of you hoping to come over next year, our European friends and friends from around the world who are looking at the PWC schedule next year, we hope you'll come join us. It's a pretty amazing place to fly, amazing terrain. It was a lot of fun. My guest today is Martin Jovanoski, a very accomplished PWC pilot. He won the World Cup in Turkey that I was with him at a couple years ago in Aksaray, which was actually my best World Cup. I got 4th there, but he was crushing that one, and is a sailplane pilot and tandem pilot instructor. He's from Macedonia. He's been a big part with Goran and making that such an amazing comp site in Krushevo, and is always the most smiley person on launch. He has that kind of first flight stoke every flight he has. He's never had an accident, and he's just thrilled to be in the air. In fact, I don't know that I've ever spoken with anybody who's so enamored with flying, especially after doing it so long as he has. He's been flying since he was a kid. He comes from a family of flying, and he just was enthralled from the beginning and still is. So we talk a lot about racing and strategy and just life and sponsorship and the beginning to the end of this crazy world we all love. I had a blast doing this. We were both at the French World Cup in Targasson, and we had some weather days and got to sit down with Martin, which is always a treat to do these live. So enjoy. This is a great talk with a great human and a fantastic pilot. Cheers. Martin, cool racing with you this week, and we don't get to do these live very much because I'm over on the other side of the pond, but nice to sit with you here in France. We didn't get to race today, the last day, unfortunately, but I wanted to start this off by a little different than I normally do. I want to thank you I've done a number of comps with you now and seen you in many places around the world, and you're always just a light. You seem to have the most fun of everybody. So whenever I'm around, it's this that I'm looking at right now. It's this smiling, happy. You're always just incredibly jovial. You have a great attitude about all of this. So thanks. You make coming to these comps a lot more fun for me.
Thank you. First of all, for inviting me to the podcast. I've been a huge fan of the podcast since the very beginning, actually. And doing it live with you, it's really, as I told you, it will be my honor to be a guest. And it was a nice week, and it's maybe even nicer that we are doing this at the end of the week after all the racing and all the fun.
This place is cool. Really cool. Have you been here before?
I've never been anywhere close to here before, and I love it. I think for me, it's probably now in top 3 competition areas I've been. It's such a nice playground with so many complications and options and possibilities together with the Spanish side, Berga, where we went, and here. I think it's a very nice place. I would love to be back.
The flight we did day 2, I made a mistake after I had a nice start and then made kind of a mistake. And then a few of us were off, you guys in the lead gaggle. And when we were racing through the mountains, I kept forgetting we were racing. I just thought, this is amazing. Oh, I could topland there and I could bivvy there and look at that lake. And it was just
That was beautiful.
Magnificent. That was one of the coolest flights I've had. It was beautiful.
I will agree with that 100%. I was with the leading gaggle and everybody was so pumped up. We were racing full bar all the time, and I was like, guys, can we just stop for a minute?
just check it out.
Just to look around a little bit.
It was amazing. Yeah, I'm very impressed. I mean, I think in the end too, we had a really bad forecast coming into it, and I almost didn't come. And I'm glad I did. I mean, we got 4 tasks. That's not too bad, and I'd love to come back.
Yeah, me too, definitely. And yeah, we were lucky with the forecast. Actually, it turned out much better than expected.
Yeah.
But this is the nature of paragliding. You never know until you are there at site. Even like one day ago, it looked like yesterday it's a worse day than today, and we ended up not flying today and nice task yesterday. So
yeah, you guys had an incredible finish. I was one of the unlucky ones. I barely made it to the start. I was never above the launch in that stability. But I was watching the live tracking. I mean, Hano and Maxime just barely skated in, and from my eyes, did you barely make it?
Yes.
It looked like you were feet off the ground.
I landed backwind as well. That was crazy.
That looked like quite an interesting final glide for a lot of people. It's coming in right on the treetops.
Nerve-wracking. I had a similar task ending on the previous task, and I was like, come on, not again. Why?
I had that one on the previous one, right? I think it was a 21 to goal. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. And then I made it. It was just, thank you.
Sidewind. Yeah. It was on this comp, it was a lot of very interesting options, very surprising options that were happening. And I think it surprised a lot of time the leading gaggle, but so others could catch up. It was quite fun.
Yeah, pretty interesting flying. So when did you get into this game? And for those who aren't familiar with you, don't know you, that are listening to the show, Macedonia is your home, but is that where you grew up? When did it all start for you?
Yes, this is a long story, but
we love stories. Start from the beginning.
I'm actually very lucky. I grew up in a flying family, let's say. My father was flying, already started Sailplanes in the 75, 6,
wow,
7.
Cool.
Back in the day, in Yugoslavia times, it was like almost free for anyone that wanted to go. So kids could just sign up and go skydiving or sailplanes or whatever.
Did you fly with your dad in the sailplane?
Yes.
Cool.
But that's another. So he went to the school for sailplanes, but never got a license.
Okay.
After that, army and whatever, he started flying with hang gliders first. And then as paragliders came into the world, he naturally started that when I was born or something like that.
Yeah.
And only much later, 30 years later, I am now instructor for sailplanes. And I took him on a sailplane flight with me instead of me with him.
Really? Yes. You're an instructor for sailplanes?
I just got the license this year.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Have you been flying sailplanes for a long time?
Since 2017.
Okay, so the obvious question. Keep telling your story and we come back to sailplanes.
Yeah. So basically, I grew up in this sport from the very beginning. I'm born in 1990.
Yeah.
So exactly at a time when paragliding came up, but there were still a lot of hang gliders in my childhood. And then more and more paragliding. And back in the day, also Macedonia is almost at the end of the world, you know. It was a young country in the 90s.
When was the Yugoslavia breakup?
1991 or something.
91, yeah. Okay.
1990.
Gotcha. Yep.
So informations and all of that was not easy to get, but we were quite lucky because we had a good generation of hang glider pilots that moved to paragliding. So it was a very easy transitions. These were all pilots, some from air clubs, some with some flying background, so they knew a lot of stuff about flying and could progress quite fast with paragliding as well. And I watched my father and the friends flying all the time.
Was this in Krushevo?
Yes, this was in Krushevo.
So that's where you grew up?
I'm born in Prilep, 30 minutes away.
Oh my god!
But I grew up on the takeoff. Basically, every summer we would go there, like in May, set up a campsite, and then when the weather is good, stay there, fly, and when it's bad, just go back to home, 30 minutes away, and come back.
And from my experience, the weather's not often very bad.
Yes.
That place is reliable.
We are lucky. In general, Macedonia has around 300 sunny days a year, but especially anything between May and September, it's really amazing. So I made my first tandem flight when I was like 6, something like that, from a small hill, then some bigger flights. And then around 9, I really started to crave a lot to let me go alone, to fly alone. And this is almost 2000. Imagine there were not many kids flying like it is now at the age of 9, 10, 11, 15. But I was still very light. So
you were flying by yourself?
Not yet. So at 9, I really started pushing, and we had some fights and at home, of course, and it was a good excuse because I was still too light, and it was like, come on, watch the charts. There is no such a small glider at all, so you have to wait. It was a good a humbling experience for me. He took me one day for ground handling, but with his big wing, and I couldn't do anything, and I was like, oh, so disappointed. But I was like, okay, now I need to gain weight, I need to get stronger. And I was like consciously eating more to gain weight. And at 11, I was like, okay, I look at the chart, now we have to go do it. And I was pushing more, and finally started to do some flights at 11.
Wow.
But yeah,
was your dad nervous?
I don't have memories of that in those years. But as I grow up and I look other young people flying, or later, especially my brother started flying at 9, 10 as well. He's 5 years younger than me, and me watching him, I was like, oh, I realize what my father have done for me, because that's a big step to take your kid flying. It's not easy, definitely.
I've got my daughter's 6, and I just took her on a couple tandems. We were down in Costa Rica for a bit, and even that was just... It was very tense for me. Just it's your kid.
Now, as I'm thinking, I'm not sure if I will be so brave to send my kid or a very close relative for a very young age like that. It's really amazing.
I didn't really discover flying until I was mid-30s. I mean, I had seen it a little bit up in Seattle. There's a really famous site there called Tiger, and a buddy of mine lived right at the LZ, and he always, for 10 years, you should compare it. And I'd go and I'd look, and that looks really boring. It just didn't seem that exciting. I had no idea about XC. And remember, Hike and Fly wasn't even really a thing back then, but they looked like they just and then landed, and that was it. But so I wasn't very interested in it. But when I did get into it, I always felt thankful that I did when I was older, because I think if I was 20, with the kind of risk I was taking when I was 20, I've often been curious about that. You know, if you grew up in it, how did you stay safe when you're young? Because when you're young, you're just stupid.
Yes, definitely. But I was again lucky on that side as well. My father was super safety orientated pilot.
Okay.
He never had any accident at all in 45 years of flying.
Wow.
And no broken bone or anything. And from a very young age, I was put into that kind of safety mode, let's say.
Okay.
And I'm actually quite proud of that, because it led me to much much more smooth development, let's say. Maybe not as fast as people developing these days, but back in the days, also the gliders that we were flying, they were not easy to just go for it, and a lot of accidents could happen and were happening around. And with this kind of safety mentality, I think it was a very good approach that kept me safe even through my teenage years or whatever. And I can, yeah, proudly say I've never opened a rescue or been anywhere close to something like that, even flying acro or anything like that. So I'm
all these years you've never thrown your
no,
reserve. Wow,
never,
amazing.
not
Awesome.
even being close to it. I mean, it's part being cautious, part being lucky as well. I've been testing, I've been working as a test pilot for companies. We go on competitions, pushing a lot, like you wouldn't push if you're not on a comp, or I don't know, learning acro and stuff like that. Definitely there is some luck there as well, but for sure being a little bit more careful can lead to definitely much safer flying. And I am really big into this propaganda of safety and safe progress, because I really think that at the end it puts you in a better mental state than progressing super fast with some accidents, because still from time to time this will affect your judgment or thinking.
How do you impart that kind of progression and mentality in association with risk to your students? How do you, when the people that come to you that just start learning, how do you take your brain and put it in theirs?
It's very, very difficult, but a lot of talking. A lot of talking. I think I work more on the mentality side of my students than anything else, because the techniques, they will come naturally, some of them, or they're easy to fix. Just you look at somebody making mistake, you tell them to correct this and this and that, and in 2 days they will do it better. But this mentality needs a lot of time to digest by someone's brain, and it needs time to become your pattern of behavior. It's not only, okay, I heard, yeah, I need to be safe, and that's it. Because I find a lot of pilots actually want to be safe, but they don't know how, because they are not aware of the risks. So they are like, no, 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 I don't want any risk. But then they go and do something totally risky because they don't know.
Right. We don't know what we don't know in the beginning. I've often struggled with that. I'm not an instructor, but I've thought about that. When you get your intermediate license and you get to go fly the coop a little bit. You leave the nest, but you don't know what you don't know. It's a hard thing to impart, I would think. How do you teach them what they don't know in the beginning? Do you share with them the scary stuff, the scary stories, the real risks? Is there a way to do that without scaring them away from the sport?
I believe in people need to be aware of what they are getting into, because flying and thinking that nothing can happen, it's definitely not the safe way, no matter how much scary that can be. Because you need to be aware that, yes, I'm flying, yes, I'm beginner, yes, I'm trying to be safe, but things can happen unexpectedly. So I try to present it in a way that, here is a good example. I know people that are flying without any major accidents, without being set back and not progressing as well. So people that are progressing, that are getting better and better, but no accident. But here is the other example: people that done only one stupid thing and they got hurt. So you need to be aware, ready, and when you're ready, you will also think more of the risks. Because flying just thinking that nothing can happen, it can definitely be much more dangerous than knowing, okay, this can be dangerous, that can be dangerous, and thinking about the possibilities. But you know also that the sport has progressed so much in terms of safety of the wings, and it's so much easier now than ever to get into, that it's also quite difficult to explain the dangers as well, because people are flying and flying and flying and nothing is happening because the wings are so good. So why would something happen?
What do you think about this? I mean, there are people here. This is a quite high level comp. There's a lot of AAs here, and the French team and that kind of. But there were a lot of pilots here at this comp who have been flying 3 years. You know, they have very little experience, and they're flying at the top. You know, it doesn't get any higher than the World Cup. What do you think about that? It is remarkable that, I mean, when I learned in 2004, you didn't go to an END for years. You know, that anybody did. It was just, that was something you didn't do, and the World Cup was kind of out of reach. I mean, those people were just, oh wow, those are World Cup pilots. But that was just off the radar, at least for me, where I learned and where I got going. It was, you know, it was expected that it would take years and years to become a World Cup pilot, and now people are doing it really quick.
No, I agree completely. I also learned in 2001. I started. The majority of my learning was in the 2000s, and it was like that. It's not that these pilots are doing something totally superhuman. It's definitely the progress of the equipment that allows talented people to progress very quickly without major accidents. And I think it's a very good thing. I have a lot of good examples around from people being progressing in the sport very quickly in a very safe way, as long as they have the talent and the right mentality. Darko, my teammate, is one of them. He started flying only in 2017, and
wow, he's doing great.
He's top pilot in the world.
Yeah,
but this is something that people need to be aware of, and as long as you are still pushing it in the same way, I think it's a very good thing, because it brings the sport to the masses. Finally, we can, that's why we have more competitions, more competition pilots, less accidents, and I really like it, this way of development actually of the wings. To be honest, in the past it was really difficult to progress, and even when you progress, there were years with much more worse wings, and then the wings get kind of normal, then again another step in performance, but at the cost of safety. It was really unstable. Now there is a nice stable progress throughout all the classes, and definitely the latest generation of comp wings, it's totally amazing what we can do with these wings. Every flight I do, I'm like, oh, this is the best times of aviation.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It's pretty special. What's your approach to SIV, and what's your personal approach, and also for your students?
I do a lot of SIVs. I do normally 2 to 3 SIVs a year, spring and autumn, and I think it's probably the best way to get to know your wings at the moment. And there is, SAVs has been done for many years, but it's done at such a wide range of pilots, instructors, people, and the wings have been progressing quite a lot throughout the years, but not always the courses. I'm really into this way that you need the SAV to train. It's very difficult to simulate the exact behavior of the glider in real turbulence. It will never happen. But what you need the SAV for is to train the behavior of your wing in certain scenarios, which not always means that you go full bar collapse. Half of the time, especially on the ENB wings, it's almost for nothing. It's a good experience for the pilot. Okay, I got a full collapse on full bar and nothing happened. It's good for their mind, but it's not that gonna help them to react on it when it really happens.
Sure.
So I try to promote more of a training way of SAV than, okay, now you did these 8 flights, you did these 8 maneuvers, and now you know how it feels. I'm more pushing into, you can see it in other sports as well. Football players are not playing football to get better at football when they have a match.
Right.
You need, and I have very similar approach to paragliding in general, including SAV. You need certain exercises to get good in order to perform when this skill is needed. And I think SAV is definitely a crucial thing for anyone, not to do once, but to do it often, every year, for sure, depending on the place and your skill. As you get better, it's something that you can, part of SAVs, you can train also on your own. It doesn't need that you need to depend of instructor for a long time. But I would definitely suggest in those first years of paragliding, 3-4 guided SAVs under instruction on a yearly level, maybe the first year even 2 at the beginning of your proper flying, and then just to maintain those skills and to know what's happening with your wing.
When you're doing your own personal SIV, are you doing it on your comp wing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends. I do when I want to do it on my comp wing to get ready for my comp wing. Yes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay.
Every comp wing, every generation is slightly different, reacts slightly different on the full stall or this or that. How much does it jump after exit, after side move, or so on. So it's a good exercise and getting to know your wing now.
And you mostly just kind of fly, like tail slide or fly back to restart. You're just doing a bunch of stalls.
With the comp wings, as soon as you get a new model, yes, that's the easiest way to check it out.
Yeah,
also spins as well. Spins are nice.
Yeah.
And letting the glider to shoot after a big dive or from a wing over also gives you a very good representation of how the wing can jump in heavy turbulences and so on. Also to try to stop it with the bees, not only with brakes, to see how much room to play you have there. It's a good get to know move with your glider.
Back to your timeline, you started flying really seriously in the early 2000s. When did you start flying comps? When did you become an instructor? Take us through some of that.
So, as I said, I was very lucky to be born in a flying family, but our country throughout the 90s had big changes within, probably back in the time of socialism, all the factories, all the manufacturing, everything was national, and throughout the 90s there was a big privatization, let's say, of everything that the state owned, including big factories where my family worked, my father and so on. And as this got sold out, it was a little bit weird way of selling it out, and many of these factories never got to work again. So by the end of the 90s, like 2000 or something like that, almost when I started flying, we in our city especially, we had 48% of unemployment rate. Whoa. So my father lost a job, difficulties with my mother's work and so on. And this led to the next few years, I was flying really old wings. So when I started, I was flying Paratech P2, P3, like wings which were not only old. Back then, they were 10, 12 years old. Now, 10 years old wing is still quite a nice wing, but these wings were from the beginning of paragliding.
Yeah, like 8 cells and 11 cells.
So the first glider was a twist or something like that. It was maybe 11 cells. Wow. And Krushevo takeoff?
Yeah.
So for my first 2 years of flying, 2.5 years of flying, I flew almost everywhere else, but not from Krushevo takeoff, from the main east takeoff, because the galley in front, my wings, and with my weight, I couldn't pass the galley,
The cheese.
So I was flying around without properly flying at the main side. Then we got really my first proper flying wing was a Sky Divine performance AFNOR performance wing. I don't know, it would be like a 2-3 or END now.
Yeah.
Let's say. From some friends in Macedonia. Very thankful for them. They got it to me. They sold it to me, but it was like almost for free.
Yeah.
And it was the first wing that I could properly fly and thermal around. And it was maybe 5-6 years old. But for me, it was
brand new.
It was a machine. And I did my first, I don't know, 5 hours flight, first 80 Ks on this wing. This is around 2004 and 14. And in 2005, we were in Serbia. There was a World Cup. It was the biggest comp that this area of the Balkans have seen until then, and it was very close. It was in Niš, so it's very close from Macedonia. 3 hours drive, and you're there. And we went there with my father, and I was a wind dummy.
Yeah.
And I had awesome time flying with all the people that I've been dreaming before that. Even before I started flying, I was so obsessed. For example, at the age of 6, 7, 8, I knew all, not world champions from the past, but I knew all the podiums on the worlds and the Europeans of the years before.
Seriously?
Like in my mind.
Oh
96,
my God.
this guy was third. 95, this guy was second.
No
I
way.
was totally obsessed.
Wow.
From super young age. And being on this event, it was like a breakthrough experience for me. Mainly because Avasport, which was a harness manufacturer back then, quite a big one. They were a Bulgarian company. They already knew my father from the early 90s, from flying around the Balkans, some competitions in Macedonia, Bulgaria, and so on. And these guys, when they saw me flying, it was really not usual that you have 15-year-old kids flying around and doing the task and so on. And they decided to help me and support me. Back then, they were having a World Cup team, and they got me full equipment, new harness, rescue, helmet.
Big deal.
They got me the previous wing from one of the pilots in the team. So I got a new glider, everything, and I was in paradise. I was finally
legit.
Look, this can happen for me because you grew up in Macedonia. You see all these guys on VHS tapes flying and dreaming, like I don't know, Jimmy Patcher 98 Worlds or World Cup or something like that. To this day, I remember every scene of these VHS tapes because there were like 3 tapes that would go 24 hours in my house, and all you do is just sit there. You want to be one of these guys,
Wow.
And with that support for equipment, it was a huge help for me. I could start flying good proper equipment. I could fly more often abroad in Bulgaria with them, working a little bit on the harnesses, helping them and developing. And then this lasted for a couple of years and got me to my first competition glider, and they supported me to go on the first World Cup. So I was qualified to go on World Cup when I was 17, 18. Also, I was qualified for the
2007.
I was qualified for 2007 Australia Worlds at 17.
Wow.
Yes, but I couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And then 2 other members of the Macedonian team went there. But then I qualified for next year. My first World Cup was in 2008 in Poggio, in Italy.
Yeah.
And my competition glider didn't arrive. It was late just for 2 weeks for that event, and I was still flying the END from the year before, but I had such a blast. My first World Cup, super young. I don't know, back then maybe there was nobody flying a World Cup at 17 or 18. I'm not really sure. So it was a big breakthrough in 2008 with the first competition glider, Boom 5. Europeans, it was in Serbia that year, so I could go there as well, again close and cheap and everything. And from there on it started. I started working in 2007 as a guide, and then slowly starting to instruct at 18. But before that already we did some guidings in Macedonia together with Primoz Susha, and it was really the beginning of me finding the place in paragliding, and I was like, okay, this might work, but it was still, for a country, post-communist country in early 2000 or mid 2000s, to say you want to work paragliding, it's like that is definitely that's not an option, man. Why are you dreaming? Like what? There is no chance, in meantime, actually my first comps were when I was super young, at 13 or something like that, immediately after I started flying, but in accuracy landing. Yes, in Eastern Europe in those years it was actually quite popular, and it was probably a good move by my father as well, because where else to put 13-14-year-old kid to compete if not in front of you watching landing instead of going
right.
It's flying the distance.
It's kind of more of a controlled environment.
For sure. And I started doing this accuracy comp, and it actually got my bug a lot. Probably because I like to compete in whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm quite competitive, and this was quite interesting for me. And in those years, throughout those years, I started competing a lot in accuracy because it was relatively cheap.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. It was very good learning experience also. And like at 16 in 2007, like early in the winter, I was at the Worlds, the first time at the Worlds, and I won 3rd place. I think that's still probably the youngest medal in paragliding.
Whoa!
Yes.
Really?
Yes. And
wow! You must have been on the moon.
Yeah, that was crazy, because from 2007, that was the first comp that I got to a podium. Yeah. First big comp that I got to a podium, and then competing on this World Cup tour or European tour. It was back then. I in 2007, 8, 9, and 10 or something like that, I competed like on 38 comps, and I was on podium on 34 of them.
Whoa!
I got to first place in FIA ranking, and it was really, really going well on the accuracy thing, because I was really liking the environment, liking the game. It's so much focus in just one split second, and it's you and your technique, and I really like the game, and I went to a lot of accuracy comps because, as I said, most of them, they were around Eastern Europe, so easy to access. You don't need a latest equipment as well. Super cheap entry fee, and a win was at 300 euros. Yeah. So I was going there to finance my cross-country flying.
That's awesome. Is that I don't know anything about accuracy. Is that, do you chalk up some of your ability to all that accuracy stuff? Is it, I mean, is it, would you suggest people get into it if they're first getting into flying? Is it an important thing? Is it a good skill?
It's definitely a good skill, but it's a skill as any other skill in controlling your wing well. For sure, starting your career, it will give you a big, you don't have to go to compete because it's still a competition environment with a lot of focus, and now it's also very difficult to compete as well. But to get good at accuracy landing, I think it's a crucial point in order to progress later safely, but as well as with ease of mind. I know tens of situations where we've been gliding on a comp on a very low with not many options to land, and pilots would turn and land in a nice big field, and I would continue knowing if I don't catch the thermal, I can land anywhere. And I catch the thermal and I go, and they pump out. So it's definitely a skill to have, but it's like any other skill. If you put a little bit your mind into it, you will progress faster, which is definitely a good thing to do, especially for pilots living close to a good site, or pilots that can fly only on certain days when they are out of work and the day is not that good for flying, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 Ks, but you can still do 3 flights, 3 nice accuracy landings, or 3 nice takeoffs with different technique that you will check, and then the next time you might need it, you will be better.
Is accuracy just scored on where you land?
Yes.
It's the closest to that little dot?
Yes.
Oh.
So it's
not technique, it's not your launch, it's not
No.
your line, it's just where you land.
You need to land and not fall, which is also very important.
Okay.
And it's measured by the first touch on your foot.
Okay.
And it's quite fun because like the comps now are, even back then, but the level is, when you're fighting for World Cup or European Cup wins, it's like 6-8 flights, and the total score from all the landings combined, it's like 9 centimeters in total.
What?
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
Really? Wow, you're very accurate.
Very accurate. And it's a big mind game, let's say, a lot of tension, a lot of close results. You know that for this much you can be second or eighth.
He just showed me about 3 inches there. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
And I believe that it also helped me develop as a competitor as well. To know when to push, to know when you cannot get better now than if you're trying for these 2 more centimeters, you might lose more. And
so strategy
a lot. Strategy, focus, to not be I don't know, tangent, it's a comp and stuff like that. Going on many comps in a easier environment like that, also being young, probably put you to ease to not have this tension. Oh, I'm now going to the world, so now this is very important event. I think it helped a lot. But the interesting part happens around 2009, 2008, 9. Avasport stopped supporting the cross-country team on the World Cup.
Okay.
And I got no more wing from them. They still supported me with harnesses and anything, and harness and rescue, whatever they were producing, but no more wings. And I had I had like the boom that they got me. I sold it. Then I flew some Mac Paramagus. I was having a blast in 2009. At 19, second comp wing, everything is going well. I'm progressing, getting better and better. I don't know, first on our nationals or national league, second in 2018, first in 2008,
yeah.
2009. Everything is getting better. We had a World Cup in Krushevo where we had some top pilots from Slovenia, and it was a pre-World Cup, so there were Italian pilots. I don't know, mixed batch of field, but it was Jasen with a Magpara prototype. Then it was Matej Zegler, Tilen's brother,
Yeah.
with Niviuk prototype, and then everybody else more or less with normal wings. And us three during 5 tasks, I win 2 tasks. Then Jasen win 2, and Matej won 1 of them. And we were 3 of us. We were top 3, 600 points above the 4th pilot.
Whoa.
Yes. And for me, that was like, okay, it's happening.
Figuring it out.
I'm getting better now.
Yeah.
This is probably that was probably the biggest success until then. I won some local comps before that in cross country.
Did you win that one in 2009?
I was 2nd or 3rd.
Okay.
But we were just
Yeah.
points were like almost very
Yeah.
small differences.
Right.
And I was like, nah.
And that was a
perfect.
pre-World Cup.
That was a pre-World Cup.
Okay.
And okay, now it's getting better, perfect. But that was the end of the season, and the next year is coming. I have these 2 victories that I got on the accuracy European Cup. I got these 600 euros for that. I can sell this wing for, I don't know, 1,000, and then you have more or less not enough money for even a wing. I'm like, what I'm gonna do? There is no. Even if I manage, okay, I'm young. I mean, maybe I can manage to get some discount from somebody, but then you still need some support to visit competitions and World Cups or stuff like that, you know. Yeah. And at some point, I wrote Axis through a Bulgarian dealer, but never got a reply back that autumn. And I was like, okay, probably this thing is not really, because they had a very safe wing back then, and as I told you, I was more on the safe side, and it was quite attractive for me. Also, they had one of the cheapest dealer prices as well, so I was like, okay, maybe if they give me discount, this can work out. But they never replied, and I was like, okay, you sit, you do some work, and when you get some more money, you will compete in cross country again. Yeah. In meantime, accuracy continued because there was a team from Serbia sponsored by Nike Serbia. Yeah. They got me and covered my all expenses, so I could still compete in.
And there was prize money still.
There was prize money, and all the expenses were covered by the team.
Cool.
So for me, it was like, okay, I'll continue with that. And in spring 2010, I go to Slovenia. There is a Winter Cup, but in the same time, Slovenian nationals and some World Cup in accuracy. And it's happening in the same time. And I'm there with my ENA, flying the comp. Usually we fly in the morning. Everybody are preparing to go up the takeoff, the cross-country pilots. Yeah. I do some small acro, and then there is some wind. We are soaring around takeoff before they fly, and so on. And many Slovenian pilots know me because of the guidings before, and I've been to, it's these Balkan countries. It's a similar language, and it's a young kid flying. It's not many
really psyched young kid.
Not many kids flying around. So many Slovenian pilots know me. And these guys from Axis saw me flying as well and doing well on that comp in accuracy, but saw me flying some aerobatics and stuff like that. And they ask around, who is that guy? And like, that's Martin from Macedonia. This guy wrote us at some point in the back.
Really?
Yes.
They remembered it.
They remembered it, and I was driving back from Slovenia, when I got SMS, still no internet,
Yeah.
roaming and stuff like that. It was wild years. Yeah, I got SMS from the Bulgarian dealer. When you get home, call me, because these guys from Axis replied back.
Nice.
And this is how the story started. They first they sponsored me a wing, and I started competing for the team. Later, very quickly, I started also testing for them a little bit, because in meantime, in the accuracy comps, I would use every single opportunity to try as many wings as possible, and doing some SIV maneuvers with them, like testing maneuvers with them, looking how they're built and why and so on, since I was 15, 16, like from the very beginning. I started when I was kid. I was doing model planes, and I was always interested in this development and why is this done like that and so on. So when Axis started sponsoring me with a wing and competing for them, I tried to help them in the development. This was difficult years. It was 2010, and Ozone just came up with the R10.
Yeah.
And everybody else were just
Toast.
we were like flying ENCs compared to Comwings. But and so it was also still open class years, where people were building up prototypes all the time and developing. And slowly I started working for them as well, testing. And this is when things came a bit more, okay, now you're working abroad, a bit more internationally, and it's happening again, a second life, let's say,
coming back.
Yeah, okay, now
it's
okay, it's okay. It's gonna happen. It's gonna still this unsure, but it's gonna happen. And then working for them until.
Are you instructing in this period too?
In meantime, yes. Since 2007-8, I started instructing and flying some tandems and stuff like that. But with local market, let's say Macedonia is a small country, and still flying was not as popular as now. It was those years when it really became more normal, let's say, to fly from 2007-8 onwards. And I was working in our school with paragliding instruction and tandems. And in meantime, I was working for them. Like, I would go over the winter to Axis to work on some wings and prototypes, and then we would test in Slovenia and so on in this when it's not a season period. And then back in the season, I would fly at home and do some competitions. And in the same time, these are years since 2008 and 9, we started organizing competitions with Goran. First, it was first couple of years was my father, and then slowly I was more and more into it. And the summer season was packed with competing and organizing and teaching. And then in the winter, I would go to Czech Republic, where I would stay a month or 2 or something like that, sleeping in the factory, and then just working on new wings and stuff and trying out things. These were years when Franta left the company to go to UP to design for them. And the owner of the company, basically, Radek, was designing, but this wasn't his primary job before that, So we were learning a lot of things together and progressing quite a lot, because I was at the moment the only test pilot, plus with some designs from before and the new try and error things. Learning was quite quick.
Do you understand design and all that too? Are you pretty good with that kind of thing, or was it more feel and feedback? from test? I mean, are you a computer guy? Can you get in and I mean more back then? Was it pretty heavily computer based then, or was it more still drawing it out?
So we were already designing in glider plan
Yeah.
back then. I'm not a computer guy, but glider plan it's so easy. It's not easy, but you don't need to be a programmer to use it.
Yeah.
But in general, my job was more for feeling and flying, and because of I've been so focused on watching other gliders, of trying other gliders, and thinking about I could give suggestion and ideas. Okay, let's do this kind of cross section here, or different diagonals and stuff like that, or this kind of lines layout. But then to implement it in the computer, it was Radek doing it, of course.
Okay.
But I was really motivated and focused on this kind of development. I really loved it.
So the R10 comes out. When are you guys going to bat with them?
So R10 comes out in the spring, and actually Axis said we had a response very quickly, which was something worked on even before I joined them. Already they had a carbon prototype with a big carbon patents like the baby HPP from the super final before. Wow. Like huge 1 meter carbons inside, like Gibus's arc almost, kind of, but with carbon.
Yeah.
And a 2-liner wing, but it was the same wing, let's say, that was from the year before, with just 2 lines now. And very quickly we realized that it's not the 2 lines that make the performance only. It's a big part of that is the wing itself and the profile,
Yeah.
But already on the Europeans in 2010, I was flying one of those
oh wow,
2-liners. Yes. Okay. So most of the companies were quite quick to jump into having a wing in the 2-liner category. The problem was that those were not really competitive,
Yeah, right. So you had the comp where your podium, you're 600 points ahead. It sounds like did it really start clicking for you quite quickly, the comp side of things, or was that beginner's luck?
No, well, actually I won some comps even the year before.
Okay.
And I was doing well on our national league. Again, I would say I'm lucky even coming from Macedonia without too much information. You are 10 hours from the Alps. You are not in the middle of the paragliding world. You are 12 hours from the Alps. But in the 2000s, we had a very good group of competition pilots from Macedonia that were visiting a lot of comps, a lot of World Cups. Goran, probably visiting almost all the World Cups in the 2000s. Goran, Igor, Vladimir, they were not only going abroad, but they were quite good, and they could learn new things and transfer it back. And me being still a kid, I was really welcomed by all of them to receive a lot of knowledge, and this was going actually relatively easy for me to progress. To as you say, it wasn't a moment where it clicked in. I felt that more in accuracy, where I would just go on comps or do some small training, not much of a training, but some training at home, or go to comps, and nothing. And all of a sudden, from that one comp on the Worlds, from then on, it was just you are in the game all the time.
Wow.
You are one of those. Yeah. But for cross country, it wasn't like that. It was more of a slow, gradual progress, just better and better and better.
Okay.
And
how many hours a year do you fly?
Now it's difficult to say, depending. It's not. Many times I also say this to many of my students. It's not only how many hours you fly, what kind of hours they are.
Sure.
I do a lot of tandems over the winters.
Yeah.
And if you take them in account, there are many hours. But I think good quality hours with cross-country flying, it's around 200, 250.
Okay.
With tandems and everything I fly, it's more. But depending, some years more, some years less. When I was younger, I was really flying a lot. Now with the guiding business we have in Macedonia, for sure this is still a lot of flying, but then it's not always with your comp wing or you know.
Yeah.
So it depends. I have around 3,500 hours, maybe a bit, probably more.
Do you know how many World Cups you've raced in? You kept track?
No, but there are not that many actually. Huh. I've been competing in those 2010 to 2013, 2010, 12, 13, something like that, even not the whole 13. When I was with Axis, maybe 2 World Cups per year.
Yeah.
Before that, maybe again also 2 World Cups per year, and then there was as the business at home was growing, and the company, the Axis company, was making some changes to have some full-time pilot to have there, not like me going and leaving. I stopped working for them, and in 2014, 13, the winter, I started going to South Africa to do tandems over winter, and then seasons back home.
In Cape Town?
In Cape Town, yes.
Okay.
So I was doing that until COVID for every winter.
Oh, really?
I love South Africa. It was my second home base. Let's say it's a beautiful place to fly, to spend the winter. I don't like the cold at all. I'm not into skiing or stuff like that.
As you know, I've had a lot of people on this show over the years. I don't know that I've ever met somebody so obsessed as you are with flying. I mean, is there a break coming in all of this? Is it 2016, 2017? Do you ever burn out? Do you ever? I mean, you do it year round.
For sure, burnout is a real thing, but I really love it, and whenever I couldn't do it full-time dedicated on comps and cross-country flying because of, I don't know, finances or equipment or whatever, I was always finding different ways to fly. And many times, especially Goran, it's a good friend now, and would tell me, come on, you're not focused enough, you need to do just that. But I love this as well and this as well. So I started flying hang gliders in meantime as well, doing a lot of paramotors in the autumn when there is, in Pelagonia, it becomes so beautiful. Cold air gets down, there is no turbulence, nothing, so you can fly the whole day around with the paramotor. There is no thermals, but at least with the engine you have plenty of fun, good for photography as well. Then the Sailplanes came in 2017, and I try some microlights and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, you are an aviator. That's amazing. Okay, so you were doing a couple a year, 2010, 2013, and then
3-4 years with Axis, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
It's almost 4 years with Axis. Difficult years.
For the business.
For competing, for competition career, very difficult years. Ozone is dominating. Nobody else is competitive at all in general, and also and most of the companies start to lose momentum as well. Between them, it's also Axis. They as much as they're focusing on the comp wings, they still need to make some normal wings, and
there was a lot going on then. I mean, there was the Peter Hita thing, there was the open class gets banned, and CCC starts, and
a lot of shifts, which were not easy for many passionate companies that were putting a lot of effort in competition flying as well, and without big success,
Yeah.
So in meantime, I slowly start to work only part-time for them, just when they really need it. And I'm flying in winter in South Africa, and then over the summer we're doing still organizing the competitions and participating in some and doing the guiding and courses. And in 2014 I was lucky enough that I mentioned this many times. I am lucky, yes. In 2014, Jean borrows me because we are organizing a World Cup in Krushevo.
Yeah.
And I need something competitive, and they had the Boom 9, which was maybe not at the level of Enzo 2 back then.
Yeah.
It was the closest possible wing, definitely. And through Petra, she from Czech Republic, she was very helpful for me to organize a wing to borrow just for that comp. But the week before that comp, we had our nationals and Hungarian open, something like that. It was mixed event. So I get the glider first time on that event. It was bad weather. We had like 2 tasks, but I got on podium. Slowly confidence coming back, because throughout those years I had some good results. I don't know, second on World Cup task, third, 8, but not really big overall results. And flying with a lesser competitive wing, you always need to do something different than the gaggle to stay in the game. And then when it works out, it's like, wow, fantastic. But when it doesn't, you're last, and things are
hard for the overalls.
It's hard. I am 23, 4. 2 years before that, I could compete and beat many of these guys that are now, I have no chance, you know?
Yeah.
And confidence gets lower and everything. And in 2014, Petra managed to get this wing for me just to fly it on the comp. It's a World Cup at home. Come on. So I get this wing, and on the Hungarian Macedonian Open, I was on podium. And then on the comp, I was 15th. In the World Cup, I won my first World Cup task. I was, I think, first or second non-Enzo glider. And in general, it was really good feeling. I was flying quite well.
And good for Jen.
Yeah, as well, for sure. And it was, the feeling was coming back. Okay, I can do this. Obviously, it's not forgotten. It wasn't, and because of that good result, I could qualify for the super final, which was in Turkey, which is super close as well. So easy to go. Before the super final, there was a pre-World Cup in Chameli, where we're gonna go next year actually for a World Cup. So we did a very nice month of trip with my girlfriend, sleeping in the car throughout Turkey. 1 week on the pre-World Cup, where I won, I think, 3 out of 4 tasks. Then to the super final, I was 22nd or something like that. I bombed out one of the tasks, which was like very, I don't want to say unlucky bomb out, but it was really bomb out without pushing it. When you push and you bomb out, it's gonna happen. But
you were trying to be good.
This was like, okay, now just let's all fly to go, and suddenly we are on the ground with Nicola Donini and few other top guys. And that was still, again, good result. And it was, again, very nice year to come back and to prove, okay, this is good. We can happen. But in meantime, the guiding was getting good at home, and it was important years to
make the business.
Make this from ground up, basically, because the comps were
the
very
guiding you're doing in air XC guiding in Krushevo.
Yes,
or are these
it's
trips?
It's tours and guiding. So it's two types of trip you can do. You just focus purely on flying and cross country and learning, or just having a nice relaxed time in Macedonia with a lot of flying. We travel around. In both cases, we are based in Krushevo, but we are traveling to any flyable site in Macedonia. It's a small country, so we can even sometimes go to Greece or Albania, some close sites 2 hours away. But in general, we have quite good weather normally.
Yeah.
Often we fly at Ohrid as well, and it was important years to develop this, and also with the competitions. We started quite seriously. In 2016, we organized Europeans, as well as I helped out in the hang gliding worlds, Europeans as well, in 2016. So the next couple of years were more focused on that, where in meantime, also one whole generation of competition pilots in Macedonia stopped competing, more or less. Yes, we had this generation of the 2000s that we spoke about.
Yeah,
they were kind of slowly older. The life takes over, family, kids,
Sure.
and it's not like they were not competing at all, but they really slowed down a lot. At some point, it was me and one more guy competing in an international comp that happening just right home,
Right.
So it was a small slowdown. We didn't had a league since 2012 or 11, something like that. So things started to become stale in the country for comp flying in general. And in 2017, it was a new young generation of pilots was around that were really motivated to compete again and to learn and so on. And I kind of felt like, okay, these guys are super willing to fly, and in order to get good, even for me, you cannot be the best pilot in the world if you are competing against yourself.
Yeah.
So you need
good people around you.
Exactly. You need better people around you
Yes.
than you are in order to improve faster, easier,
right,
and to get better. And I kind of led this new national league. I created a new system. We started competing with no costs, nothing. Everybody, we make like five leagues per year without entry fee, without anything. In Thursday evening, we say, okay, this will be the takeoff because this is the best weather where we go. We go there, we just say the task, this is the task or whatever, and we fly. No retrieves, no organized, no lunch packages, nothing. Just pure flying, pure racing.
Wow,
nothing else
cool.
matters.
Wow.
And it was a really big success. In 2017, I left my comp wing at home. I was competing with DNC because that was the highest glider we had in Macedonian League.
Wow.
Yes,
really?
In 2017 and 18, there was nobody flying higher than ENC because all the people were at that
Just
level.
getting into it.
Just young people getting into it.
Wow.
Yes.
Cool.
And it was a very good learning experience for me as well. Trying to help these young pilots, I was also learning more and more.
Sure.
This is always the case.
Because then I would imagine what you say you have to do. We all know what to do, but doing it is different.
Not only that, you need to think of things, especially competition mentality and so on. I was doing lectures for every league for the first 2 years. Like Saturday, we would review the task, or I would do some different talks, because back then I was invited to a few events like Serial Cup in Slovenia and so on to do some lectures as well. So I would transfer this as well to them. And also, when you have different group of people all towards the same goal, somebody will do something else better than you or think of something else. So it was kind of gradual progress. And from this national league that in 2017 and 18 had maximum ENCs, we came to the moment where Macedonia is third place in the world in 2023.
Wow.
It's
really
amazing. Probably it's my biggest personal reward for all these years.
Wow.
Let's say.
What was your first win in a World Cup?
First World Cup win was only now in 2021 in Turkey.
The one I was at.
Yes.
Was my best as well. Yeah, you dominated that one. That was amazing. So
that was when the league started and everything, we everything started moving better. We got a very nice group of people to fly with and to compete with and to have fun, very good vibes. And in 2019 we started going on CCCs, ENDs, CCCs, depends who. Some were flying Leopards, Xenos, Boom 11s, depends who was at what level. And it was Darko in that group, Georgi, that was now with us on the national team, my brother developing in the same time. Alexander was an old pilot that stopped flying for a little bit because of family and twins at home and everything, and then he was coming back into. And in 2019 we had Worlds at home. Me and Goran are organizing. They were in the national team. Everything is perfect. First Cat 1, I think there were the team was maybe 30th or something like that out of 45 or 50 teams or something like that. But first Cat 1 for them, and maybe for half of them it was like the third event, third or fifth comp in general that they ever done.
Wow.
So and we had big plans for 2020, as probably many people around the world, but with COVID and everything was like a big setback, slow down, stop.
Yeah.
We could fly a lot, some very nice free flying in the country, some big triangles. After so many years being busy in the summer, with my brother, we did the 200Ks triangle, first 200K triangle in the country, just because it was COVID, nothing was working.
Something.
But this also slowed down the competition progress. And for 2021, it was the first year after this whole new push for competition flying, when we had the opportunity, and it was very good timing with Jean. They were sponsors for us in 2009 for the World Championship, and when the competition season started in 2021, they were flying some of these Boom 12s on the super final in Dicentis, and I was like, we are going to this World Cup now. Can I try this, because there were like only 5 wings produced back then. Can I have one of them? And it was an instant match, after many years, especially the 10 years before, flying not really competitive wings. Suddenly you are switched on, and things are working without too much effort at all. Also it suited me very well, being very easy to fly, very feeling comfortable under it. It helped a lot in the strong Turkish conditions for sure. And it was an instant match.
I'm curious, when you kind of had this juniors program league that you were developing and teaching. You said you did some seminars and some talks. For those who are listening at either end of the spectrum, really, I'm thinking more people that are just getting into competitions. I mean, I just learned something from Julian the other day that I'd never even heard, and I've been flying comps for 10 years. What are some of the key ingredients to building a repertoire of success? You see, to me, the French are just operating on a whole another level because they've got the coaching and they come through the juniors program and they've got a coach on site. Julian now goes to all these World Cups and works with them. Charles Cazot, who's flown World Cups for 30 years, is now taking over the juniors team. This is something that is just completely foreign to the US. We don't have anything like that. Everybody that's flying comps has to do it pretty much entirely on their own. We have mentoring comps, which are amazing. Nick Grease and Russ Ogden came out this year and they would talk about things. But what are some of your jewels, if they were, in terms of teaching the younger pilots in Macedonia who you brought? Darko is a good example. What are the things that are kind of key to making the stepping stone?
I must make it clear, I was really helping them a lot on the beginning. But as this progressed, 2021, 2022, 2020, as they are progressing, we are all helping each other. I think this has been the key ingredient. Without, there is couple of ways possible in my mind. For sure, you need somebody to lead in order for somebody that is not on that level to progress. But it's very important as well, as when you have many people which are on the same level or on a very good level, then to work together. I think this has been one of the key points and one of the biggest factors for our success. Paragliding it's a sport with a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of egos, as usual for any aviators, and it's not easy to work in a team.
Yeah.
Especially when you are at the similar level and fighting for the same thing, national champion, league champion, or whatever. And I think the biggest success in our group, in the way we did it, was that when these pilots progressed and got all on good level, they still stayed together. We still stayed together and working and helping all the time, instead of everyone just splitting for their own. Now it's time to beat you or whatever. And especially because we have such a low numbers. In our national league, we have up to 25 competitors that are coming to every league. We have a bit more, but 25 that are coming to every league. And we have 15 competition gliders. And as I told you, we had 0 maybe 6 years ago.
Right.
So when you have when you don't have a big pool of people that you can just pinpoint, take them and go, it's like a natural selection. Then you have to work more as a team. You are more vulnerable, but if you progress as a team and if you help each other, I think everybody can elevate on the same level. And this is why I say, because I got this question many times from small countries like Hungary to bigger countries. We were discussing similar stuff what you mentioned with Garcia. Now when they were in Macedonia. So for us, or for small group of people, small pool of people, I think teamwork, it's a very effective tool to progress together. And once everybody is good, you can learn from each other.
Mm.
So I was teaching or helping them in the first 2 years, but there are many ways that they teach me now as well, even after so many years of flying, for sure, because different minds think differently, and you can always pick good things from everybody. One from simple things like storing your glider in order to be more comfortable later for when you go and open on takeoff. Like anything. And but for big nations, France has a unbeatable system. It's a perfect system supported by the government with professionals developing other professionals, and this is very difficult to do in commercial world, where somebody, for you to dedicate the time for somebody, it's very it's
tough.
expensive.
It's tough,
and it needs a lot of time to be dedicated to somebody in order for them to develop themselves. And I think we were lucky in this point, first of all, to have talented people, super talented people, but also to be such a nice persons that they can all work together without any big troubles at all.
So when you guys are at these comps, are you all staying together? Are you analyzing track logs at the end of the day? Are you having little team meetings before, after the task is released? Are you working together like that?
Especially earlier, we did that more as more things were unknown.
Yeah.
But let's say now it's easy, just the right back that we're gonna do some talk. This was a mistake, that was a mistake. More or less, it's already a debrief, let's say. But we stay together, we travel together, we fly on the same radio frequency, even on individual comps, not like the worlds. When we go to World Cups and stuff like that, and I think this is definitely helps for sure.
The 21 World Cup in Turkey, for me as well, that was my best World Cup ever. I got fourth there. Everything seemed to just align that week. I've had many days in other World Cups, and I haven't done a ton of World Cups, but it's Super Finals 2012 I did 2 that year. So that's, and every year there's been maybe 1. Most of the X-Alps years I do hardly any, but so it's been a mix. But, that one was just, I constantly felt like I was in the right position and in a nice controlling position, and it wasn't desperate, just, I got to catch up. And you were, same for you, you won. You were in, I remember you were top 5 almost every day. You were just dominating. Top 3, that's right, you were. And then we have other comps where we've both been in this case too, where nothing seems to be working very well. What's the difference? What's happening at that one versus another one? Is it?
First, I think it depends of the case. For sure, it's a mentality thing, but it can be mentality from disturbed building a house at home. What you mentioned to me before. Or just I don't know, flying a lesser equipment and you're making desperate moves, trying to win with actually your best chances to be it's 8th, for example. And instead of just flying and fighting for 8th, you're fighting for first and you end up 42nd. So these
realistic expectations.
I think this is for consistent flying. I think this is one of the most important aspects. It's very important to have realistic goals if you want to get the maximum of each event. This means also many times you will do all the right moves, but the first task will go in an unpredicted way where the whole leading gaggle will bomb out. So what can you do? You need to readjust your expectations, because now you're flying with a 1 task less, and then you change the style. And I think this is a key point and very difficult to do, especially going into a different event with different expectation. many times this switch of mindset can come a little bit too late. It's, okay, I'm fighting for the US nationals. I'm quite good this year. I did good. And you go there and I don't know, the conditions are not really your style, or you make a mistake in the third task and you still want to win where you could be realistically second or whatever.
Right.
I think it's all mentality. When things are going all together and you're doing well, but you don't know why, this is a problem, let's say. This is not a problem. It's you are doing well, but this is not sustainable. So you always need to know why was that happening well, or why it was not happening well. And many times there are very rational reasons if we try to look at ourselves from outside, not from our inner self. Okay, maybe you are not that good in week anyway. So how do you expect that things will go differently? Or you are not that good in super strong conditions. You're not that comfortable. You have changed harness and you're still setting up the harness on the third day of the comp, and you're frustrated why it didn't went well, where did I made the mistake? But there are very often very logical reasons that we think that they are not affecting us, but they do, for sure. It's our sport is a mind game, right? It's a 3D chess, as mentioned many times before, and it really, I think it's really important to be in a good state of mind in order to look things objectively, to be consistent.
You spent a lot of time with Goran, and he raced for a long time. What are some of the things? And I feel like he's kind of a mentor to you. I remember in Turkey, he was as excited as you were when you won that. It was kind of like, he's my son, and he won. What are some of the things he's imparted on you? That having that outside perspective, now that he's not racing, but he sees everything, I imagine he's got some pretty valuable input.
So he will be listening this, so I have to mention. He haven't been racing for a couple of years, but this year on our nationals, he was third.
Wow.
Big success actually for him after so many years not competing.
Wow.
But I've been working with Goran, organizing comps for now more than a decade, more than 10 years. And I've learned a lot about management style and these organizational stuff. Regarding the flying, he's still from this generation, from the 2000s, when it was a hero or zero. Now
Yasin.
Now you beat everybody or that's it,
Yeah.
But at those first years, some of these kind of advices were also helpful for me. Not much later, but at the beginning, like things like I will probably it's something I've remembered many times, and he's like, Martin, come on, you are enjoying this comp too much. These are not your idols, these are your enemies. You need to beat them. Come on. when I was I don't know, 22, 23, for me it was still, every day it's living the dream, meeting all these people that I only have read in magazines. And he's like, come on, these are your enemies. You need to beat them, not to adore them. You can adore them after the comp.
Smart.
But this is a good. It was a good advice as well, because after all, you are here for racing. I understood it more in this way. You are here for racing. You need to be focused on that. Yes, everything else, it's quite fun to watch them fly or what wind they have and everything. But the main focus, it's always what you can do best. Yes, there, and also to believe more in yourself, because going on a big comp watching all these pilots doing amazing results, and then you need to think that you are on that level in order to be on that level. If you think, no, for sure they're better than me, it's difficult to make that jump in the final frontier for top results against the top pilot. It's very good to learn when you're in the beginning, but when you go into the game to fight for the victories, you also need to think that you are on that level, no matter how glorious they can seem, or I'm a fan of the sport, so I really like the whole environment and superstars and everything, and I admire a lot of people. But definitely that was a very good lesson to know that you are here to beat them, and you can. So just put your mind into it.
As you look forward to the next 5-10 years of doing this, what are your personal goals? What do you see yourself spending time focusing on?
I would love to keep competing on World Cups as much as I can. First of all, because it's the best game you can play, in my mind, in my opinion. I love it. I enjoy doing it. You learn so much all the time, no matter at what level you are. And I really like getting better at flying, because it opens up so many different possibilities that makes the game again just better, no matter if it's con flying, or even when you go back and you fly on your own. Being better pilot widens the possibilities so much that it's so nice that I love getting better in order to enjoy more. I don't think mentioning things like goals to become world champion or something like that are different than anybody else. Probably majority of the pilots are competing for that. I believe. I would think so. So this is definitely a lifetime achievement that I would like to have. But I think that the first goal of getting better will definitely lead me closer to that ultimate goal. And let's see. I'm open to learning and progressing, because I think that it's really important, and I feel like the game is also changing constantly. It's not the same flying that we did even 2 years ago or even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There are small differences, but to be at the top, you need to be adapting constantly.
Yeah. Martin, great stuff. What a pleasure to be able to do this again live with you here in France, and nice work. Great finish yesterday. That was very exciting, and wish you all the best, bud.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. As I told you before, I'm honored to be your guest. I listened so many of your podcasts and the book and everything. It's a true pleasure to be here with you, speaking as part of this big community. And I hope we're gonna end up with a better sport because of podcasts like this in general, when we can all learn from each other.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. If you find the Cloud-Based Mayhem valuable, you can support it in a lot of different ways. You can give us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or however you get your podcast. That goes a long ways and helps spread the word. You can blog about it on your own website or share it on social media. You can talk about it on the way up to launch with your pilot friends. I know a lot of interesting conversations have happened that way. And of course, you can support us financially. This show does take a lot of time, a lot of editing, a lot of storage and music and all kinds of behind-the-scenes cost. So if you can support us financially, all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. And you can do that through a one-time donation through PayPal, or you can set up a subscription service that charges you for each show that comes out. We put a new show out every 2 weeks. So, for example, if you did $1 a show and every 2 weeks, it'd be about $25 a year. So way cheaper than a magazine subscription, and it makes all of this possible. I do not want to fund this show with advertising or sponsors. We get asked about that pretty frequently, but for a whole bunch of different reasons, which I've said many times on the show, I don't want to do that. I don't like having that stuff at the front of the show. And I also want you to know that these are authentic conversations with real people, and these are just our opinions, but our opinions are not being skewed by sponsors or advertising dollars. I think that's a pretty toxic business model. So I hope you dig that. You can support us. If you go to cloudbasedmayhem.com, you can find the places to support. You can do it through patreon.com/cloudbasedmayhem. If you want a recurring subscription, you can also do that directly through the website. We've tried to make it really easy, and that will give you access to all the bonus material, little video casts that we do, and extra little nuggets that we find in conversations that don't make it into the main show, but we feel like you should hear. We don't put any of that behind a paywall. If you can't afford to support us, then just let me know and I'll set you up with an account. Of course, that'll be lifetime, and hopefully you're being in a position someday to be able to support us. But you'll find all that on the website. All of you who have supported us or even joined our newsletter or bought Cloud-Based Mayhem merchandise, t-shirts or hats or anything, you should be all set up. You should have an account, and you should be able to access all that bonus material now. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate your support, and we'll see you on the next show. Thank you.